Have you ever wondered why certain words cut so deep? Why silence from someone you love feels like a wound? Or why rejection still echoes long after it happens? The truth is, most of us have been taught to run from pain, to toughen up, to distract ourselves, to pretend it doesn't matter. But the more we resist pain, the more power it gains over us. The pain doesn't disappear, it buries itself deeper. It becomes anxiety, procrastination, self-sabotage, emotional outbursts. We think we're in control, but we're reacting to wounds we never healed. Carl Jung said it best: what you resist not only persists, but grows in size. You see, pain isn't the enemy, it's a messenger. It's not here to destroy you. It's here to reveal what still needs your attention, your compassion, your understanding. Imagine this. Instead of trying to become someone unshakable by numbing out the world, you become untouchable by integrating your pain. You learn to sit with your sadness without running from it. You learn to listen to your anger instead of silencing it. You begin to understand that what hurts you most in others is often a mirror of the parts of yourself you've yet to accept. And that's the breakthrough. Real strength doesn't come from building walls. It comes from self-awareness, from learning to be with yourself fully, from facing the shadows you've tried to outrun your entire life. This is your invitation to stop pretending you're okay when you're not, to stop judging yourself for feeling too much. The truth is, your pain holds the blueprint to your transformation. Are you ready to listen to it? Are you willing to stop escaping and start healing? Tell me in the comments, what's one emotion you've been avoiding lately? Let's talk about it. Let's normalize feeling deeply in a world that pushes us to stay surface level. Because the day you stop running from your pain is the day you start reclaiming your power. Have you ever felt like if you just tried a little harder, if you were more patient, more forgiving, more put together, maybe then people would stop hurting you? Maybe then they'd see your worth? Here's the hard truth. As long as you believe you can control how others treat you by adjusting who you are, you'll stay stuck in a painful loop of self-betrayal. We grow up clinging to this illusion that if we do everything right, we won't get rejected, criticized, or abandoned. But the world doesn't work like that. No amount of perfection will protect you from pain. And ironically, the more you chase control, the more fragile you become. Carl Jung taught us that true liberation doesn't come from control, it comes from awareness. Control is fear disguised as strategy. It's our desperate attempt to avoid uncertainty. But life is uncertain. People will say things that hurt, they'll leave, they'll change. And when they do, what matters isn't what they said or did, but what it touched inside of you. That's where the real work begins. When you stop trying to mold yourself to avoid pain, you create space to finally meet yourself. To ask, what am I afraid of feeling? What story am I still carrying about my worth? Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the false belief that if you suffer enough, you'll finally be loved the way you need to be. The moment you stop managing other people's opinions is the moment you begin to reclaim your life. You start building emotional immunity, not by hardening your heart, but by becoming so anchored in self-awareness that external chaos can't shake you. You stop living in reaction and start choosing your responses with clarity. So I'll ask you this. What are you still trying to control that is actually keeping you small? What would happen if you stopped performing and started healing? Drop a comment below with your answer, or even just "I'm letting go," if this hits home for you. Someone out there needs to know they're not alone in this. The more we release control, the more room we make for truth, growth, and peace. You were taught to fear pain, to see it as a sign of weakness, something to avoid at all costs. And so you built walls. You smiled when you wanted to scream. You stayed strong when all you wanted was to be held. But here's the truth no one tells you. The pain you're running from isn't your enemy. It's your messenger. It's the part of you that is still alive, still aching to be seen, heard, and understood. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists." And that couldn't be more true when it comes to emotional pain. Every time you suppress a memory, deny a feeling, or try to outwork your sadness, it buries itself deeper until it shows up again as anxiety, burnout, self-sabotage, or loneliness that makes no sense. The real problem isn't the pain, it's your refusal to sit with it, to listen, to ask, what are you here to teach me? Your suffering has roots, and they often stretch back to wounds you didn't choose, childhood rejections, betrayals, or moments where you were made to feel small, invisible, or not enough. But here's the most freeing thing you'll ever hear. Your pain is not proof that you're broken. It's proof that you are still here, still trying, still feeling. And beneath the ache is the doorway to everything you've been searching for: self-worth, peace, and clarity. The journey begins when you stop numbing and start noticing. When you stop blaming others for your feelings and start asking, what inside me still hurts? This is how you break the cycle. This is how you free yourself, not by escaping pain, but by walking straight into it with compassion, courage, and curiosity. So I'll ask you honestly, what part of yourself have you been running from? And what might change if you turn toward it instead? Let me know in the comments. Just one word, one sentence. This space is yours. Healing begins in the moment we choose truth over performance, presence over protection. Have you ever wondered why the same situations keep repeating in your life? The same arguments, the same disappointments, the same deep emptiness that creeps in when things go quiet? It's not a coincidence. It's not bad luck. It's your unconscious calling out for your attention. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's not just a quote, it's a roadmap. Most people are living on autopilot. They think they're making choices, but really it's their wounds making them. Their triggers, their childhood stories, their fear of abandonment, their unspoken need to be seen, to be loved, to be enough. Awareness changes everything, not because it eliminates pain, but because it gives you the power to respond instead of react. It puts the steering wheel back in your hands. Without awareness, someone says the wrong thing and you explode. Not because of what they said, but because of what it touched in you. Without awareness, you keep chasing love in the wrong places, jobs that burn you out, people who mirror your pain. But with awareness, you begin to see. You notice the patterns. You pause before the spiral. You breathe instead of break. This is not about perfection. It's about presence. When you become aware of your inner world, the thoughts you've inherited, the fears you've buried, you stop being a puppet to the past. You start becoming the author of your present. That's the power of awareness. It's quiet. It's not flashy, but it's the beginning of freedom. The moment you say, wait, this isn't me. This is a pattern, a defense, a story I've been telling myself. And that moment, that is the beginning of change. So I ask you, what patterns are showing up in your life right now? What reactions feel automatic but no longer serve you? Drop it in the comments. One word, one insight. Your awareness might be the exact mirror someone else needs today. Because when you know yourself, you stop waiting for the world to heal you. You realize you had the power all along. We've been taught to run from suffering, to treat it like a problem to be fixed, an intruder to be silenced. But what if the very thing you're avoiding is the thing trying to set you free? Pain is not your enemy. In fact, it's one of your greatest teachers. Carl Jung once said, "Neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering." What he meant is simple yet profound. When we avoid real pain, we create new suffering, cycles of anxiety, numbness, distraction, and self-sabotage. We think we're protecting ourselves, but we're actually digging deeper into the very wounds we're trying to escape. Look closely. That heartbreak that shattered you, it didn't break you, it revealed where you've been hiding. That rejection, it touched a part of you that still seeks approval to feel worthy. The pain is not random. It's precise. It arrives exactly where you are not yet whole. And while the world tells you to move on or stay strong, the soul whispers, no, stay here. Feel this. Heal this. Suffering asks something sacred of you. It invites you to stop running and start remembering, to stop resisting and start listening. When you lean into pain with awareness instead of judgment, something magical happens. Clarity. You begin to understand not just what hurts, but why. And in that understanding, something begins to shift. You grow, you soften, you stop needing the world to behave a certain way for you to be okay. So ask yourself, what pain have you been pushing away? What if instead of numbing it, you met it with compassion? What would it say if you listened, truly listened? Let's break this illusion together. Suffering isn't weakness. It's not failure. It's a rite of passage. It's the place where your old self dies and your truest self is born. If this resonates with you, if you've ever felt like your pain had a voice you weren't ready to hear, share it in the comments. Say, I'm ready to listen, because you're not alone in this journey. You're not broken, you're becoming. And the moment you stop running from your suffering is the moment it starts guiding you. There comes a moment in every person's life when the pain becomes too loud to ignore. You reach a breaking point, not because you're weak, but because your soul is demanding truth. This is the beginning of what Carl Jung called individuation, the raw, messy, and beautiful process of becoming whole. But here's the truth they don't tell you. This path doesn't lead you toward perfection. It leads you straight into the heart of everything you've been running from. The journey into your unconscious is not glamorous. It's not spiritual retreats or perfectly filtered peace. It's brutal honesty. It's sitting in the silence of your own thoughts, unmasking the person you've pretended to be, and confronting the parts of you that still crave validation, control, and safety. You begin to realize that so much of your identity, the achievements, the image, even the confidence, was built to survive, not to truly live. And that realization alone can feel like grief. But this is the paradox of transformation. In order to become whole, something in you must die. The persona, the mask, the need to be liked, these illusions must fall away so that the real you can emerge. Not the curated version of yourself, not the version that always has it together, but the one who is strong because they've allowed themselves to be vulnerable, the one who is wise because they've embraced their inner chaos. And yes, it's lonely, not because you're truly alone, but because few people are brave enough to walk this path. It's easier to stay in the shallows, to wear the mask, but you've already stepped beyond the surface. You're already crossing the valley. That means something in you is ready to rise. So let me ask you, what are you still holding on to that needs to fall away? What mask are you ready to remove? Drop a comment below and say, I'm crossing. Let's stand together, those of us brave enough to meet our darkness and walk through it. Because on the other side of this valley, you don't just survive, you become. Imagine a life where words no longer pierce you, where silence doesn't suffocate you, where rejection, betrayal, and loss may still sting, but they no longer define you. This is not the fantasy of a hardened heart or an emotionless mind. This is the reality of someone who has chosen awareness over avoidance. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." And this is where your transformation begins. You've spent years building walls, telling yourself you didn't care, pretending things didn't hurt, but you did care. You still care. And that's not weakness. That's humanity. The problem isn't that you feel too much. It's that no one ever taught you how to feel with consciousness. They taught you to suppress, to distract, to pretend. But what if you chose the opposite path? What if instead of avoiding pain, you learned to understand it? The truth is, nothing outside of you has the power to break you unless it finds a wound within you. Criticism hurts because it hits insecurity. Betrayal cuts deep because it echoes past abandonment. The loss shatters you only if you've never sat with your own emptiness. But when you make the unconscious conscious, when you finally explore your fears, your shame, your forgotten parts, everything changes. You begin to live from the inside out. You respond instead of react. You observe your emotions like waves, not to drown in them, but to understand what lies beneath. And in that space, you reclaim your power, not through control, not through avoidance, but through clarity. You become untouchable not because nothing affects you, but because you've integrated everything that once did. So I ask you now, are you living on autopilot or in awareness? Are you still fighting battles that were never yours to begin with? If this speaks to something inside you, comment below. I choose awareness. Let's create a movement of conscious souls, people who are done performing strength and ready to live it from the inside out. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of a deeper life, where the only true armor is a clear, grounded, awakened self. In 2025, we live in a world louder than ever, digitally connected, yet emotionally distant. Every scroll floods us with opinions, expectations, and perfectly curated lives. We're constantly reacting to the news, to social media, to what others think we should be. But Carl Jung's wisdom reminds us that true freedom doesn't come from controlling the outside world. It comes from understanding our inner one. The story you've shared is a powerful reminder that in an age obsessed with image, productivity, and emotional avoidance, our greatest act of strength is self-awareness. In this year, where AI advances, remote work dominates, and loneliness has quietly become an epidemic, the real revolution is happening inside the individual. And the question we must ask ourselves is this: are we living from a place of consciousness or autopilot? Are we aware of our emotional triggers, or are we constantly blaming the world for our internal wounds? Your story shines a light on a crucial truth. Pain doesn't come from the outside. It comes from what's unresolved within us. Rejection only cuts when we haven't yet faced our fear of abandonment. Criticism only destroys when we secretly believe we're not enough. In 2025, with the pace of life accelerating, we must slow down and listen to ourselves, not to perform strength, but to become it. To no longer hide behind the mask of "I'm fine" when we're bleeding inside. This is the year to stop running from the parts of ourselves we've buried. Because the world doesn't need more perfect people, it needs more whole ones. So what should we pay attention to? Not more content, not more distractions, but our own shadows, our unhealed stories, the parts of us that are crying out to be seen, not suppressed. Individuation, the process of becoming who we truly are, is not just a spiritual idea. In 2025, it's survival. Emotional immunity isn't about becoming numb. It's about becoming aware. That is the armor of the future. That is how we rise, not by controlling others, but by knowing ourselves so deeply that no one else can shake us. Let this year be the one where you stop pretending and start integrating. Because when you know who you are, the world can no longer define you.